As promised, we have to talk quarterbacking here. Patrick Mahomes saw what happened in a divisional playoff against Jacksonville. He gets a high ankle sprain, and we still don't know to what degree this high ankle sprain is. If it's really severe, sometimes that means surgery. You can't even think about coming back the next week. And even if it's not Robert Mays and Charles Robinson, even if it's not really severe, let's say it's serious. And Mac Jones dealt with this earlier this year. It was serious. The Patriots wanted him to have surgery. He didn't want to do it. And he probably missed, I think he missed about 4 games. They brought him back against the Bears. It was a debacle. They started him, pulled him, all that stuff. But I thought he came back relatively fast, and it was about 3.5 weeks to a month. So Mahomes talking about playing on Sunday, I'm still skeptical. I don't care what the Chiefs say. If he's got a high ankle sprain, he's a serious question mark for the game. Charles, before you're grimacing and cringing. So before I ask my quarterback, go ahead and explain that grimace and that cringe.
Well, Vegas seems to think it's serious. I mean, you look at Cincinnati, I think right now 2.5-point favorite on the road. I mean, Vegas, like, it was amputated at this point. I don't know, 2.5 points in Arrowhead. Like, what is going on, man? Vegas clearly thinks
they beat him a lot.
Woo.
Well, they've beaten him a lot, and I guess that leads to the question I want you and Robert to kind of bat this around a little bit. The Chiefs, we know, have lost their last 3 games against Kansas City. In 2 of those games, they had huge leads and lost them. So Cincinnati has shown the ability to come back against Kansas City at home, on the road. They won 3 straight. And so that has led to some Burrow greater than Mahomes or Mahomes, not the king. Here comes Burrow. What do you make of this Mahomes-Burrow conversation?
Robert, you want to take a crack at that?
I think it's a little silly. I still think, we talk about this all the time on our show, and it's so easy to get tempted by the new shiny thing, and I'm as guilty of that as anybody. Watching Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow over the last couple of years and watching what Josh Allen did in the playoffs, I think it was tempting coming into the season to say, all right, there's a top tier of quarterbacks that probably is Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and then maybe a slight step down from that, Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert and some of the other younger guys. And as the season's gone on, I think what I've just kind of realized when you consider all of the factors is that Mahomes is in a tier by himself. This was not supposed to be a all-in Super Bowl push year from the Chiefs. They literally traded a guy who was one of the best receivers, if not the most impactful wide receiver in terms of how he changes defenses in the entire league. This was supposed to be a small step back year as they transitioned to whatever this version of the Chiefs looked like. And they had one of the most efficient, dominant offenses of the last decade. And so much of that is because of what Patrick Mahomes provides you. The Bengals are in this stage right now where they can build this super team around Joe Burrow because of what he's making. I believe they're either first or second in the amount of cap spending that they have on defense right now. They have an unbelievable set of weapons. Joe Burrow is a fantastic quarterback. If you want to say that he belongs in the top of the second tier behind Patrick Mahomes, I have no problem with that. I actually think I'm probably inching in that direction based on the way that he's played over the second half of this season and the evolution that he's had and that the Bengals offense has had. But I just think it's kind of undeniable that what Patrick Mahomes has done over the last 1, 2, 3, 4 years puts him in a class all by himself. We're talking about 5 straight AFC championship games, and he is the centerpiece of that. He's never been more definitively the centerpiece of what the Chiefs are than he is right now, and we're back telling the same old story.
Yeah, prisoners of the moment. That's what we are. I mean, it's a typical, you call it the new shiny thing. I mean, every time we get a quarterback in the NFL that gets hot, goes on a run, particularly if it's a young guy, next thing we know, we're rewriting the history books. Now, look, that's not to diss Burrow, by the way. I think Burrow's fantastic. He also has 2 number 1 wide receivers. Let's be honest. T. Higgins, you take him off the Bengals, you put him somewhere else, he's going to be a number 1 wide receiver. He showed that when Jamar Chase went down this year. He stepped into the number 1 wide receiver role. No problem. Absolutely had the look of a number 1 wide receiver. Better dedicated running game with Joe Mixon. They retooled the offensive line, which held up for 15 games. I think that had a lot to do with it. Now, I think there's history being written right now. I think the injury issues that they have on the offensive line and Joe Burrow being able to keep the offense on the level that it is, particularly in that game against Buffalo, this very impressive. I think Joe Burrow can take another step into the conversation if he can beat Patrick Mahomes under these conditions, even if it's a one-legged Patrick Mahomes. I think it pushes him further into that conversation. But look, I'm with Robert. When you just look at the overall resume that Patrick Mahomes has built to this point, if you want to look at the physical attributes, if you want to look at his ability to adjust without Tyreek Hill, and I was one of the doubters that said this could massively change what Kansas City's offense looks like, he's done nothing but live up to every bit of his legend. And I think trying to push through this high ankle sprain adds to that.
Yeah, and I think you guys are right. You know what happens a lot? Our expectations get in the way. So maybe some people expected Buffalo to handle Cincinnati, not beat them down, but to beat Cincinnati and then move on for this NFL's desire, this conference, this neutral site conference championship game, fast track, Bills versus Chiefs redux. That's what people expected. So that didn't happen. And because that didn't happen, and it was so convincing the other way, now we have overcorrected. They're like, well, Joe Burrow, not only did he beat the Bills, he's the best ever. Or he's the best in the AFC. He's better than Mahomes. Like, okay, wait a minute. Now, I'll give Joe Burrow his props. Joe Burrow has performed, I'm going to call it a regional miracle. Yeah, you know, Southwest Ohio can tell you it's a regional miracle. He took a franchise that had no pulse, nothing, no pulse, no playoff pulse for 30 years, and now he's their all-time playoff wins leader at quarterback, all time for the Cincinnati Bengals. It's nuts. He's got 5 playoff wins, most of anybody in their history. That's crazy. So that's a big deal. But Patrick Mahomes has kind of dipped into history and rewritten some historical records. And as you pointed out, 5 straight AFC championship games. He's got a Super Bowl win. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. The accomplishments.
MVP.
Yeah,
2 MVPs after this year.
That's right.
There's a lot there. Now, I like this, Robert, where Charles says, Mahomes, Burrow, Allen. There's the third character here. We haven't mentioned him yet. Is our Elway Montana Marino. I was always a Montana guy. I never knew Montana's numbers. I never cared. I was surprised when I became older and I figured out, oh, he didn't have that many touchdown passes. I never cared. I didn't care. I just Montana was my dude. I just loved the way he just kind of operated in a composed way and always got things done. So where does, Robert, you say Mahomes in a category by himself. If you want to put Burrow at the top of that tier below Mahomes, then you're putting Allen behind Burrow?
You can order that however you want to. I mean, we did this at the end of the year on our show. We picked an all-pro team. I picked Josh Allen as my second team all-pro quarterback. If you look at what the Bills' offense was over the course of the season and the role he plays within their offense, he is the offense. What they ask him to be, what they ask him to do behind a shaky offensive line. I mean, and it got them in trouble. The onus they put on him just within the overall ecosystem of how they operate, eventually that they ran out of runway with that version of it. But I think that what's on his shoulders within that offense is incredible. And they were still very, very good all season. I think what's most interesting to me, beyond the tiering, I just think it's so interesting how differently these guys succeed. That to me is the most fascinating part of the Joe Burrow conversation, is that when we watched the divisional round game last year, when Allen and Mahomes were just trading haymakers and it looked like a Godzilla movie, I came away from that game thinking you just need one of these super powered quarterbacks. These guys that just have this overwhelming set of physical traits that accounts for every single problem a defense can present them. And Burrow is not like that. You know, Burrow doesn't have this cannon of an arm. He isn't as fast as a guy like Josh Allen is. He isn't as big and strong, even though that is an underrated part of his game. The fact that we have this guy now who is even in the conversation with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, and he wins in the way that he does, cerebral, on time, seeing the game, pre-snap identification, all of those things. That to me is the most interesting part of this. The fact that we have all these different guys who can affect the game in the same way when we were having a slightly altered conversation about what we need from the position, in my opinion, as recently as 12 months ago.
That's some good preaching right there. I agree with you 100%. It's right. And it always changes, right? It changes each play. Charles, you said prisoner of the moment. We are every postseason. We look at a game or two or rounds. It's every round. And we got to come up with trends. And you used to hate working for a newspaper. Give me a trend story. Like, oh, here we go. A trend story. Just because this happened doesn't mean that it's sweeping the nation, that it's changing the face of football. But we do this all the time. We'll do it again after the next round. But Charles, answer your own question. So Burrow, Allen, Mahomes, who's Elway, who's Montana, who's Marino?
Well, I mean, look, if we just slot it, in terms of physical ability. I mean, look, everyone's going to take Burrow and they're going to put him in the Montana role because just like Robert mentions, he doesn't have the massive arm. He's the more cerebral guy. He's unflappable. That's what Burrow kind of fits into. If you're probably going to look at Mahomes in that trio, you're going to say it's Elway because he has an arm that's unmatched. It's something that most of us have never seen. And he can take a team, 13 seconds, right? He could take John Elway 99 yards. I mean, he would fit into sort of that mold. And then when you look at a Josh Allen, brings a different running element to the game than Marino, but another guy with just a massive arm, maybe some argue better than Patrick Mahomes' arm, who could, rewrite passing records the same way that Mahomes can. But let me throw in a little wrinkle here too, because, Michael Holley and I talked about this a little bit before the show launched. Go back and look. It's funny because Allen, they fall out, they lose this game, and everyone's like, oh, he's young, they'll be back. It's fine. They took a step back, but it's okay. They'll fix it. Go back and look at Phillip Rivers, okay? Year 4, Phillip Rivers, 26 years old. 2 years sits behind Drew Brees. Second year as a starter, goes to an AFC title game, right? Loses. Michael Holley, we talked about this, played on the torn ACL against the Patriots. The assumption was, look at Rivers, the arm, the talent. The Chargers are loaded. They were in San Diego at that time. No problem. He'll be back. Never went back. Didn't go to a Super Bowl. Never went to another conference title game. I think we should always consider there's a possibility that these people we think are going to rewrite NFL history are not going to rewrite NFL history. And Josh Allen could end up being this guy in the AFC, always dealing with Mahomes, always dealing with Burrow, maybe dealing with Justin Herbert, maybe dealing with Trevor Lawrence. And next thing you know, 10 years from now, we're looking at him like he's Phillip Rivers.
What do you think,
Phillip Rivers told me that story once when we were after that game when they lost in the playoffs in 2010, and he was talking to Norv Turner in the locker room, and they said that to each other. We'll be back. Come on, of course we'll be back. And he told me that about a decade after it happened, and you could feel kind of the pain in his chest recounting that because he was never back. Yeah. Aaron Rodgers has been to one Super Bowl, let alone Phillip Rivers. Yeah. Getting this far even is an unbelievable challenge. And I don't think people understand how many things have to go right for you to eventually have all those rings. And Phillip Rivers, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees has one. I mean, Peyton Manning has one. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways that you can talk about it, and it's no guarantee to anybody.
Well, Manning. So you don't want to give Manning that 15 one.
Oh, 2. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I know.
The 2015 one almost doesn't count to me.
The noodle arm.
I know, right? We all do it. It's
Peyton Manning Colts won 1 Super Bowl. I guess that's how I'll frame it.
There it is. You're right. Which Jim Irsay brought up when they got Andrew Luck. Right? Hey, we only won 1. I'm telling you, that moment, Robert, I agree with you. It's so hard just to it's hard to get there and it's hard to win it. So when Jim Irsay said, well, we only won 1. We won 1 with Peyton, essentially. But we want to do more than that with Andrew Luck. I said, okay, he's lost me. Not as if he hadn't lost me before then, but he really lost me then. I said, this guy doesn't even understand what he has. Ben Roethlisberger has what, 1 or 2?
2.
1, 2. 1, 2. Peyton Manning 1. In the era of Tom Brady in the AFC. So you got Brady and the Patriots just kind of hoarding that, if not hoarding championships, hoarding that conference championship game space. And then, the Ravens came along and the Steelers were knocking on the door and the Colts were, but it's really difficult. So I would say, and let me ask you this, Robert, because I'm fascinated by the Buffalo thing. I agree. They did put a lot on Josh Allen. And to me, it's a simple fix. And it goes along with what you said. Put less on his plate. Put a little bit more around him with the fat guys up front. Give him a better offensive line. You don't have to bring in, we got to bring in more receivers and more men. Just put more around him, and so you can have a good running game like Cincinnati did on Sunday. Mixon wasn't phenomenal, but when they needed to run, they ran. And when they needed to pass, they passed. Is that the fix in Buffalo? It's just a couple of tweaks and not necessarily a closed window overhaul, all the stuff that we say when teams we expect to win don't win.
Yeah, I don't think it requires a huge overhaul. I do think they need another secondary pass catcher. I think that is a crucial part of this.
You don't like Gabe?
Not being able to go to,
you don't like Gabe?
I don't think it's enough. I mean, he's been fine. I think that they need one more kind of middle of the field receiving option. I mean, they're trotting out Cole Beasley in a game they have to win in the playoffs. And I just don't think that's an option. If Khalil Shakir ends up being that guy, maybe, but I would like to see them have one more reliable pass catcher. And beyond, the bodies up front and the personnel, I think one of the things that's really dogged Buffalo over the last couple of years is that running the ball hasn't been important to them. And this idea that you can kind of switch back and forth between a team that is throwing the ball 70% of the time and then tap into the running game when you need to, I think that's harder than people think it is. And when you're spending most of your time and energy all the way through training camp and you have this voluminous passing game and that's who you want to be, I think it's difficult to tap into that physical version of yourself. The Rams have been like that over the last couple of years. And I think if you ask them about why that might have been the case, it's a focus thing and it's an energy and time spent thing. So I think the kind of remaking who you want to be, even in what you're focused and kind of digging in on, is something that they should maybe revisit going into next year.
You can't you can't take Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, or I think at times you could probably even say it about Jalen Hurts and watch these microcosms where they go through stretches where they're 80% of the offense, 90% of the offense. And then with a guy like Josh Allen, be like, well, geez, he just played hero ball. He did too much. Well, yeah, because you just spent the entire season having him do too much. And then now you're mad because he did too much. Like, what are you doing here? Hey, Sean McDermott, figure it out, right? Like, you can't, it's a zebra, right? And then be like, but don't be a zebra now, okay? Like, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
I think that you have to beat that into him, though. I mean, Burrow, it took a while.
Yeah.
It took a while. It took real convincing for Joe Burrow to adopt the style of play that he did 5 weeks into this season. He did not want to take all those checkdowns. He did not want to be patient in that way. But I think that ultimately you have to convince your quarterback to protect himself and take what's there and not bite it off all at once. And I think that there's a version of Josh Allen out there who can do that. We just haven't seen that guy.
Robert Mays, good stuff, great stuff. Per usual, thanks for hanging out. Hope we get a chance to see you again, and we'll see what happens in this conference championship, after this conference championship game weekend. Real quick, as the music plays, real quick, who you got in the AFC, who you got in the NFC?
I haven't even thought about it that much yet. It's so tough. It's hard not to pick the Bengals right now based on the way that they're playing top to bottom. It really is. And Mahomes not being 100%. In the NFC, it's like truly a coin flip to me. I guess I'll take Philly because I feel like they have more answers to more problems right now, but we're like 2 days away from me having a real answer to that question.
Okay. All right. So you can come back. Feel free to come back when you get your real answer. Check in with us. Be like, hey, I want to revise this. I gave you all the rough draft. Here's the real answer right here. Robert, good to see you, man.
Anytime.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.